Oh, what's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC 259. I'm gonna start at the bottom. This fight is so many fights. This card has so many fights. I'm just gonna try to run through them quick because, yeah, there's just so many. So the first fight is Mario Batista versus Trevin Jones, and to me, Mario Batista's looked better and better since his debut. He lost to Sandhagen, but Sandhagen's obviously Sandhagen. Since then, he's had two great wins back to back. To me, Trevin Jones looked like he was getting his ass kicked in his debut. I mean, he just got lucky and landed a huge shot. I don't think he looked super amazing. His record was just okay coming in. I think Batista's going to overwhelm him with wrestling and striking and win by either TKO or submission eventually. Next is Ermos Medic versus Alon Cruz. To me, these guys have almost the exact same style. They're both striker jiu-jitsu dudes. I just think Medic is a little bit better everywhere, so I'm leaning towards him. Next is Levi Renta Souza versus Amanda Lemos. To me, it's striker versus grappler. Lemos is definitely the better striker. Souza the grappler. I'm just leaning towards Souza. I think Souza, especially early, has a great ability to get fights to the ground. And I think as long as she doesn't gas out, she should be able to win by submission in the first or second round. Next is Sean Brady versus Jake Matthews. And they're both kind of striker wrestlers. I think Matthews has better jiu-jitsu. I think this could go either way. I just think Matthews has fought a lot of the better people, and he's been looking a lot better recently. I think that his striking is just a little bit better, and he's going to edge out a really close decision. Next is Kennedy Njoku versus Carlos Ulberg. To me, these are both really good strikers, but Kennedy has shown me that other than fighting really long, he's nothing super special. I don't think his striking is super amazing. I think it's really just the fact that he knows how to use his length really well. But other than that, I'm not really impressed with Kennedy. As for Carlos, I feel like he's really good at closing distance and landing big shots. He likes to kind of fight like Mark Hunt did, where it's kind of like slowing on the outside, and then he eventually likes to close in and hit you with big shots. So I'm leaning towards Carlos. I think he does that. I think eventually he draws out a big long shot from Kennedy and then, ducks under it or something and wings a big shot and wins by knockout or TKO. So I'm going with Carlos. Next is Tim Elliott versus Jordan Espinosa. To me, I think one of two things is going to happen. I think Elliott's going to kind of either out pressure him with his overall pace, or Jordan's going to outpoint him from the outside. They're both. Jordan's definitely the better striker overall, in my opinion, but I wouldn't say it's like a huge advantage. Overall grappling is pretty close. I lean towards Elliott in terms of the wrestling. I think this fight could go either way. I think it's going to be really close, but I think Elliott's just going to slightly win a decision because I think he's going to be the one who's attacking a bit more, and I think the guy who's more, forward attacking usually ends up getting the close rounds, and because of that, I think Elliott's going to nearly edge out a split decision. Next is Rodrigo Bontorin versus Kai Kara-France, and to me, Kai's shown that he has really good takedown defense. Like, I don't think he's really been taken down. I mean, in his last fight, he was kind of hurt, and that's why he ended up in like grappling situations and stuff like that. But you know, most guys that have been trying to take him down, just shooting on him, he's been able to defend them off. And I feel like Bontorin, other than on the ground, I don't see him winning this fight. I just think Kai has way better striking and way better overall wrestling. I think Bontorin is definitely the much better jiu-jitsu guy, but I mean, I just think Kai's got too good of a wrestling game to get it there. I think as long as Kai just maintains a solid pace on the feet, he wins a dominant decision. Next is Joseph Benavidez versus Askar Askarov, and Askar Askarov missed weight, so I wouldn't be surprised if this fight is potentially called off tomorrow, because anytime guys miss weight nowadays, it seems like the fight doesn't happen. But this is the only thing for me is if Benavidez has taken too much damage and he's just never the same fighter. It's entirely possible. I think the problem with that second fight with Figueiredo was he took it too soon. I'm hoping he's recovered and he looks like the old Benavidez, because to me, I think overall wrestling wise, he's the better fighter. I think striking wise, he's also slightly better. Askar's got good jiu-jitsu, but Benavidez has never even been close to getting submitted. I think that Benavidez, like I said, his stronger wrestling and his stronger overall striking, as long as that damage hasn't affected him forever, I think he wins this fight. So I'm leaning towards Benavidez to win a really close back and forth 29-28 decision. Next is Song Yadong versus Kyler Phillips, and to me, I think Song is just the overall better striker. I think Kyler has a chance if he could get this to the ground, but I think Song's takedown defense is too good. I think Song has shown that like really strong wrestlers have a strong time taking him down, especially in the first two rounds, kind of. And I don't even think Kyler's like the greatest wrestler of all time. I just think he's really strong. I think as long as Song can keep this on the feet, I think he's the faster, more technical striker, and I think that Song's going to end up winning a decision, at least 29-28. Next is Dominick Cruz versus Casey Kennedy, and to me, I realistically just feel like Dominick Cruz is too fast for Casey. I think wrestling-wise, these guys are basically dead even, but I just think Dominick's going to be able to outpoint him from the outside. I think he's too good with his movement, and I think that he's just going to be able to outpoint him for 3 rounds. There's not too much to say about this fight. I think they're just going to be kickboxing the whole time, but Dom's just going to be able to dance around him for 3 rounds. Next is Thiago Santos versus Alexander Rakic, and to me, this is entirely like most Thiago Santos fights. It's like who lands the big shot first, and it's usually Santos. I feel like both these guys are just going to be trading from the start to finish, and I feel like Santos just has way more firepower. I mean, we see it. At 205, he's just one of the heaviest hitters. When he doesn't have to cut any weight, you know what I mean? It's just all punching power all the time. And that's why guys are so afraid to just get near him at 205. And I think that's what we're going to see in this fight. I think that they're just going to be trading, but I think he's going to be doing more damage with his shots. And I think it might be kind of like when he fought Jimmy Manuwa, where he just slowly is doing more damage and eventually walks Askar down. And, you know, I think eventually he TKOs Rakic in either the first or second round. So I'm leaning towards Santos. Next is Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober. And my biggest thing with Islam is it's been a while since he last fought, and I know it's been injuries. You know, Drew Dober hasn't fought in a little while, and I think he was injured too, but nowhere near as long as Islam. Like, Drew Dober was like a standard, like, small injury, and he came right back. For Islam, it feels like it's been a year or 2 since we last saw him. You know, for Drew Dober, it's been like 5, maybe 6 months, less. To me, Drew Dober, I know Islam's been looking really good, but I think Drew Dober's just been fighting higher-level competition, in my own personal opinion. I mean, other than that one Armenian guy that Islam beat, who's been looking really good, Armin something. I think that, you know, Drew Dober has shown in his last fight when he fought I can't remember his name, but the really good wrestler. Like, every time that guy tried to take him down, Drew Dober was able to get back up right away, and he just kept hitting him in the face. And I know Islam's a much better wrestler, but to me, you know, Drew Dober's still training with guys like Justin Gaethje and shit like that. And I think that his wrestling is getting better and better, and we're seeing it. And I do think that if this is just a straight striking fight, I think Drew Dober's just got the better striking and the heavier hands. And I think that the time off just scares me for Islam, and because of that, I'm leaning towards Dober. We've already seen Islam get like one shot knocked out, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again. So I'm leaning towards Dober to win by kind of the same way, one shot knockout kind of. Next is Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling, and to me, people keep talking about like Petr Yan's wrestling, but I remember the times that guys have tried to take him down, and he was able to just shuck him off really easily. I know Aljamain's a much better wrestler than that, but to me, the biggest thing is they're both really high-level conditioned, but I think Yan just hits way harder. I think that they're both going to be landing high volume, but we've seen this with a couple of fights with Yan where he fought other guys that had high volume, and they've all kind of, you know, eventually gone down just because he hits harder. And his biggest strength is just that he doesn't wind up. He has one-punch knockout power, but he doesn't wind up. He just throws really high volume, and we see that he just chips away at dudes until they start, you know, kind of fading. And I think that's what's going to happen in this fight. I think Aljamain, especially because he'll be shooting for takedowns, I think Yan is going to be able to stop pretty much all of them or most of them. Because, once again, I have seen people try to take him down. Like, I know they're not as high-level wrestlers, like I said, as Aljamain, but I think Yan stuffs him, keeps on the feet, and either wins by decision or gets a late TKO. Next is Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson, and I know this might sound crazy, but I do think Megan can win this fight, because I remember when Amanda was fighting Germaine, and Germaine was kind of lighting her up on the feet. I know Megan's not the same level of striker, but you've got to factor in how much bigger she is than Nunes. Nunes is not a 45er. Like, Megan's a really big chick, and she's been training with James Krause a lot. I think her jiu-jitsu overall is a lot better than Germaine's is, and I think that the size, even though the technique isn't the same, like, just the size is going to be a huge factor. Like, Megan Anderson's one of the bigger chicks. Like, I know Amanda can knock her out at any point in time, too, and Amanda's probably the better overall grappler. But I'm just leaning towards Megan. I think that the size is going to be such a huge factor that people aren't talking about. And I think that she uses her length really well, too. I know that this is a big upset, but I'm leaning towards Megan to win by TKO. I think that the longer this fight goes, I think it favors her. I think eventually she's going to start hanging on Nunes and just beating her up with knees in the clinch. So I'm leaning towards Megan Anderson. Finally, we got Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya. To me, I think that the biggest thing that people aren't talking about is just how much bigger, once again, Jan's going to be than Israel. I think that, Izzy should have fought Usman instead. Like, he's weighed in at like 182 for some of his fights. And we've seen, like, I think he weighed in at like 200 pounds or something like that. Like, he's super small. He is not a 205er. I just think that Jan is going to eventually hit him with something big or take it to the ground, and Izzy's not going to be able to get up because Jan's just too big. I think Jan's going to win by submission, and that's pretty much just how I see it. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.